Hello, my name is Janice Yun. I'm a Senior Program Manager with the Office for Diversity and Inclusion at the Mount Sinai Health System. Welcome back to our Administrative Fellowship Spotlight Series today. I'm really happy and excited to feature another fellow. Hi, Atef. How are you? Can you give us a quick intro?
Hey Janice, how's it going? So my name is Atef Rafiuddin. I am currently a project manager for cardiac services at Mount Sinai Morningside. I completed my fellowship from 2018 to 2020, so just last year. And I graduated from Columbia University with my Master's of Healthcare Administration in 2018.
Great, thank you for the intro, Atef. So what do you do in your current position now? And
Yeah,
how does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So officially, my role is project manager for cardiac services at Morningside. So in my official role, a lot of what I do is advancing strategic initiatives for the cardiac service line here. So for example, we've been trying to obtain the comprehensive cardiac certification, which is essentially a joint commission um, certification that we provide, high level care. So a lot of what I do is involved in advancing that initiative and project managing that initiative, as well as other strategic initiatives like working with the heart failure team on reducing readmissions and length of stay. But then it's a pretty wide spectrum of work where there's some project management, some quality, but then I also get involved in some of our finance and operations as well. So I've been involved with putting our budget together. I work with our cardiac leadership here on monitoring our monthly expenses to make sure that everything aligns with our operations. Working with the supply chain team on potential reduction of supply expenses. And then doing projections for our volume, a lot of the business projection work there as well. So within cardiac, it's a pretty wide range of work. And I try to say the distinction of, that's my official role, because like many other folks in the past year, we've all had to be a little agile and have had to take on roles that are beyond our official titles. So it was actually quite interesting, but throughout this year, I've actually been very heavily involved in our vaccine pod work. So, there was a period of time where I was working in cardiology in my official role, but then around December, when the vaccines became approved, I was pulled into working in our vaccine clinic. And there, a lot of what I was doing was working with our data analytics for the vaccines, as well as our day-to-day management, and working with the other pod managers on making sure we had a smooth operation every day. So it was a very cool experience. It was a very rewarding experience being on the other end of the pandemic. I would definitely have to say it's some of the most exciting work I've been a part of. It's been historic. But yeah, that's kind of what my role has been in the past year, where I have my official role in cardiology, but I also flex into other things like vaccines, joint commission,
Right.
whatever the emergency is at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of folks in healthcare can agree that you often wear a lot of hats, right? I think, especially during the pandemic, a lot of us were pulled into stuff that we were not doing on a day-to-day basis, but it sounds like you really took advantage of those opportunities to work with different areas and different leaders across the organization to, learn more and gain even more knowledge in that area. Because like you mentioned, it's such a unique opportunity to be able to work in, on vaccine pods. It's really historic. And that's something that you can definitely use to your advantage moving forward. Being able to have that crisis management mindset, I think it will definitely help you advance even further in your career. So thank you for sharing that. So
Sure.
I'm curious to know, what do you think has been the biggest takeaway throughout your fellowship program? And, were there any qualities or takeaways that had helped you in your current position?
Yeah, I would say that's a good question. I think there's a lot of things that folks can take away from their fellowship. I think one of the core things for me was always exploring. I think fellowship is one of the really rare and unique times in your career where you have the opportunity to explore whatever you want, right?
Mhm,
You're not
mhm,
necessarily officially tied down to a certain
mhm,
area. So, it's important to continue exploring and to not be complacent. You don't know if you're actually going to like something until you actually try it. So I think that's one of my biggest takeaways, right? That's something I tried to do during fellowship where even if it wasn't part of our core rotations, if it was something that I found interesting, I still wanted to try it. And
mhm,
you always have to ask because the answer is going to be no if you don't ask, right?
mhm,
So if you're interested in marketing, ask if you could explore that. If you're interested in ambulatory, you
mhm.
should definitely go for that as well. So I think having the mindset of continual exploration. I think it's important to start that in fellowship. One, because you have the flexibility to do so in
Mhm.
the fellowship, but also when you move beyond fellowship, if you have that mindset, when opportunities do arise, you're used to working in that fluid kind of workflow, right? So it's definitely something that is useful. I think it's something that helps you explore your interests even more. So I'd say that's definitely my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you pointed out one of the best qualities of having being part of a fellowship program is that there is that flexibility. You're not tied to any specific areas. The 2-year program offers you that time to explore various areas to see, what you like or what you don't like, right? And oftentimes, it's really different from knowing something as opposed to actually doing it. So I think it's important that, like you mentioned, having that mindset of, exploring and just trying things out because you never know if it'll work out for you. Right.
Yeah, and if I could just add one more thing here, it's really
Mhm.
with fellowship, it's such a rare opportunity where you can tailor the experience to
Mhm.
what you want it to be. And really, you're able to do that through exploring.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, if you don't ask, the opportunities won't rise, right? You need to speak up, otherwise, we're not going to know what your interest is. So I think it's important for you to express that interest if there is an interest. So, like you mentioned, you can tailor the fellowship experience.
Yep.
So my last question is kind of tied to this one as well, but for those students who are pursuing a career in healthcare administration, are there any piece of advice that you like to share with them?
Yeah, great question. I would say, and I say this as a reminder to myself as well, but keep an open mind, right? I think early on, I know I did this. We all, we have our 5-year plan. We expect certain things to go a specific way, but that's rarely the case. Life happens, so definitely keep an open mind. Similar to what I was mentioning with exploration, you don't know if you're going to like something until you try it, right? So even if there's something you don't think you're interested in, I would still try it because you never know. So keep an open mind to those kinds of things. Um, and really, if we, it's really just about being open to whatever situation you're thrown in. So especially when you're early on in your career, I would definitely recommend that. The other thing I would say is don't forget to have fun. You don't really get that time back. So yes, it's important to be productive, be prepared, but don't let the fun get lost in the journey.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I love the both points that you made, but especially the last one because I think due to the workload and usually the fast-pacedness of healthcare, we usually tend to get stressed out, right? And that I think usually leads to burnout, and that causes your efficiency in your work setting too. So I think just reminding yourself to have have fun, during that process and understanding that, this is aligned with your goal and passion. I think that's a great reminder for students, but for really anyone who's working in healthcare. So thank you for sharing that, Atef.
Of course.
All right, Atef. So this wraps up today's Spotlight series. I want to just thank you again for taking your time to connect with me. It was a pleasure learning more about your experience and hearing about your current position.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The series has been great. I've checked out a lot of the other videos, and it's really fantastic. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Atef. Have a great day. Take
You
care.
too.